I am going to edit 3 of my favorite images from Inspire, Grow, Create, and show you some advanced editing techniques. I will be working in Lightroom, Photoshop, and Evoto. So I already went through, picked out my favorites. I'm going to go into the first one in our Develop module and just show you guys what I do. I have a preset that I put on almost all of my photos. It is labeled Vibrant Contrast. So it automatically applies some of the basic editing pieces over here. So I increase the exposure a bit. Since we have our model so close to the backdrop was so small. It was only 4 feet wide, probably about 4 by 4.5. So we could not remove her from the background. So she has quite a red tint on her face. So we're going to fix that. First, I am going to crop. I do want both of those lights in there, so I'm going to keep both of those specular highlights right in there. Probably edit those out. So we'll put her eye right on the 3rd intersection. All right. Okay, and then color temperature looks pretty good. I might go up just a tiny bit with the amber. And then I am going to make a mask of our background. And I'm going to deepen up those reds a bit. What you're seeing right now is the overlay. I haven't done anything yet. That's just the overlay. But so I'm going to take that off, and I want to decrease the exposure of the background to make that pop just a bit more. All right, I'm done with that one. Now I'm going to make a new mask, and I'm going to select our subject. And I'm going to increase her exposure just a touch. And I'm going to take a little bit of the magenta away by adding in some green. And going to do this very, very slow. And then I like to hide it and see it. She still looks maybe a little tiny bit too yellow. But that's already looking quite a bit better. All right, so I increased my exposure by 0.6, increased my contrast. My shadows are deepened. I think I might deepen up a little bit more because this is quite a moody photo, so I'm okay with some more contrast. I do want to increase my clarity on this one because it is a little bit more of an edgy, creative photo. Obviously, we can go too far. We don't want to go that far. Just enough to where it doesn't look too gritty. I think I might go about 25. Going to increase the vibrancy just a little bit more. And that is pretty much all I do for the color correction on my photos. I don't add a vignette. All right. Just looking really super close to some of the things that we're going to have to fix in Photoshop. We have a little bit of a strand here and a couple there, but we will do that in Photoshop. I think this is what we're going to do for Lightroom. So that's before and that's after. Just in Lightroom alone. All right, next photo. Again, I'm going to apply my general preset, which is Vibrant Contrast, increases it automatically by 0.6, which is a little too much on this one. So I'm going to decrease that down. Her skin tone looks pretty good, maybe a little blue. So we're going to increase. So with this round, we had different modifiers on and different lights. So the color temperature is going to be a bit different from the pegboard image to the red backdrop, simply because the lighting scenario is different. And I think I'm going to bring it down just a little bit of the red tint as well. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I already know in Photoshop, I am going to get rid of these little strands of hair. I think everything else looks pretty good. So again, I already increased the contrast with my preset. The shadows deepened. The clarity is at 5. Texture is at 5. Vibrancy is 818. And that's about it. Here's our before and after. Okay, maybe she is still a little yellow. All right, I might have gone a little bit too far. All right, I think I can live with that. All right, so I'm going to copy this. I just hit Command C because the next shot is similar. It does not have a diffuser. This one was shot with just a snoot. Same light as the previous one, but a snoot. So I'm going to apply those adjustments. And nope, I don't love it. All right, so we're going to increase the exposure So now we're at about a 0.6. It's a little too shadowy for me, so I'm going to bring up the shadows. And even if I bring them all the way up, we're still not quite getting where I want. I don't want that much lift in her hair. So I'm going to drop the shadows back down. And then I am going to do a linear gradient. All right, so we're going to add a linear gradient from the bottom to the top. I'm going to go opposite and lift the exposure a bit. And we're going to lift the shadows a bit. That might be a little too far. Just enough so we can see her feet. All right, so here is our before, here's our after. All right. All right, I'm gonna roll with that. Okay, so now I'm gonna export these and I'm going to open them up into Photoshop. So now that I've exported those, I am going to open them in Photoshop and apply a batch action. So I purchased an action from Retouch4Me. It was a bundle of dodge and burn, heal, and depth. I just went to their website. It looks like they don't offer that anymore. They offer them in individual plugins, but I will put in their website where you can learn which products they offer. It looks like they have gotten much more sophisticated. Okay, so the action has been applied. I'm going to zoom in so you can see what happened here. So it made 3 different layers: depth, dodge and burn, and blemishes. The depth, you can kind of see it. I like to increase it to 100%. So you can kind of see a little bit there. It's not too dramatic. Dodge and burn lifts some shadows, helps the texture a little bit. Sometimes this action goes a little bit too far, but we're okay on this one. And then the blemishes. This one I really pay attention to because when we have freckles and moles on our face, I do not want those to disappear. That is who we are. Those are our beauty marks. So I go into this layer, I choose E, my eraser, and I'm going to bring in her freckle that she has there, and I know she has one here as well, and the rest of them can go away because they're not substantial. They could be blemishes, so we're going to leave those. I am going to duplicate my background, merge these 4 together. So here's our before and here's our after. So that is the very first thing I do for all of my portraits. It's super subtle, but it's just a polished look. Now, another thing that I like to do when I have really dark shadows is I like to lift my shadows with an adjustment layer because now we can see our softbox here. This was not used to make the photo. It was just left over from the previous shot, as is this light stand over here. So we are going to get rid of those. Find your favorite selection tool, select what you want to remove. There is a little bit of the roll of paper at the top here that we're going to select as well. And I'm doing a 2-finger right click, and I'm going to do a fill and content aware. Much faster than generative fill. And in my opinion, the pixels come out much more true. They're not as grainy, and the texture is usually spot on. Sometimes the generative fill creates a weird texture. All right, now I'm going to delete that curves layer, and now I'm going to go in and see if there's any hairs or anything that I want to remove, which there's a couple. All right, so I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to hit my J, which is our remove tool. I'm going to make it just larger than what I'm looking to remove and let it do its thing. So this is what I'm talking about. Can you guys see that? How that the pixels are just a little off. So because of that, if I notice that, I'm going to undo it, and I'm going to use my patch tool and just select pixels that are very close and true to the actual texture so we don't get that weird pixelation. I will give it another shot though, because sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not. That one's not as bad. Smoothed it better than making it jagged. These hairs, they don't bother me too much. We really need to zoom in really far to notice them. And plus our next software, Evoto, might help with this as well. So yep, there's that texture again, right in there. I don't like it. Undoing it. Okay, so I'm going to merge these. Here's our after, here's our before. Polished version. Gonna merge and save, and we're gonna go on to our next one. All right, so again, here's our depth, before and after. You can see the contour a little bit more. I'm going to increase it even more. So now that's a more dramatic touch. Dodge and burn, it's taken away some color underneath the eyes. Now it is adding a little bit of orange here, so I am going to fix that. I don't love that. And then our blemishes, we have that cute little freckle on the nose that we're going to keep in. This one stayed, so we're good there. And we can keep this one, that's kind of prominent. But everything else I'm gonna let go. New layer, merge. Now, if we really do want to go into a depth edit, we can really clean up many of these other, I'm air quoting, imperfections. Obviously, she's beautiful. These things do not need to happen. But if you want to think about magazine quality and ad quality, we would take it an extra step further. So I made a new layer and I took my patch tool and I'm going to take some texture and just sample pixels that are super close, that are very similar to what's already happening. So I'm just removing a little bit of texture that I feel isn't quite true, and I could have made it worse. But this is why we always make a new layer, because if we mess it up, we can always delete and do it again. I have no shame. I have no problem doing this and messing up. All right, we've got this little orange piece under the eye that our action provided for us. So we're gonna drop that down. Just really small movements. Throughout my process, I like to look at before and after and see if I'm liking what I'm doing. All right, we've got these little hairs here. I'm gonna give our healing brush another chance. Like I said, sometimes it does fabulous and sometimes it doesn't. That was great. I love it. Now with this portion, I know that I am I'm going to try to do content aware fill, but we might need to do generative AI. Yeah, I did pretty great. I like it. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. I'm being really super picky. I'm pretending that this is going to go in a magazine spread. Got a little texture down here. Okay. All right, we can also fill this little window of hair to make it look a little bit more full. Love it. Okay. All right, so again, I'm going to do my curves adjustment layer just to make sure there isn't anything. Oh, we do have a little tiny bit up here. All right, so after, before. Okay. Increase our depth, before and after. Did pretty good on that one. Blemish. We're going to bring in that little freckle again. Duplicate, merge, and I'm going to grab my patch tool and we are going to smooth that out just a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to work with the pegboard. I'm going to make a new layer and I'm going to grab all of this information here, right click, fill, content aware, easy peasy. Okay, so now I'm going to look at before and after. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. All right, I'm going to save. Okay, so now I'm going to take those 3 images and we are going to bring them into Evoto. Okay, so the reason why I'm bringing this in, because this software deals with hair flyaways. It smooths the hair a little bit. We can increase the whites of the eyes. If we really wanted to work even further on the skin texture, we could. But let's just kind of play around. So right now we've got our eye white enhancement. I'm under the portrait retouching module. And we are going to eye white enhance. I'm going to go to the extreme just to show you how white it goes. That obviously is kind of cartoonish. So I'm going to bring it down and make it a little bit more realistic. Before and after. Maybe a little too far. I'm going to bring it down a little bit more. And then I am going to look at skin texture. That's the body skin. We're looking at skin retouching, even, dodge and burn to the extreme. So that was our before. This is our after. Actually kind of like that. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. All right, a little too far. All right, now I feel like the eyes are a little bit too white as well. All right, and then we're going to go to hair, and we are going to do stray hair removal. And I'll zoom in. Here's before and here's after. You can choose within the figure outlines or beyond or both. We did both, and I like it. Okay, so I'm going to copy that, and we're going to paste it to this one and see if it applies to this one as well. So here's our before. You can really tell in the hair. I think it might be a little too far. It kind of feels like she's cut out, so I'm going to scale that back a bit. I want to look up here to make sure it's not too obvious and too edited. Yeah, and you can see all this around here. That's a little too far. So I could leave it like this and then go back into Photoshop and clean up that red. But we're going to see what we can be happy with here. And again, look how far I'm zooming in. It really takes quite a bit to see what I'm looking at. But if this were printed pretty large, that would be obvious. So I think I will take that back into Photoshop and clean that up. But pretty gorgeous. I'm loving it. All right, and then I'm also going to paste those same settings to this one. Whitened the eyes, evened up the skin tone a bit, took away the hair. You can see especially through here. It took those hairs away that I didn't want to spend time on in Photoshop, but I do feel like the outside's a little much. So I'm going to go beyond figure outlines and let those fly just a little bit more. Okay. All right, we are going to export those. Take my patch tool. Okay, now we're going to look at the before and after.